Department of Estonian Tartu Folklore at the University of Tartu.
Okay.
Okay, and maybe you would like to introduce yourself?
Okay. I am Merili Metsvahi. Who am I? I'm a human being. And I composed this book, but it was done already in 2018, and it was published in Estonian, and the title was Sõsara sõrmelund, naised Eesti muinasjuttudes. Now I start to introduce the book already, not myself. Maybe the book is the main actor today, so I will still say about the book. At that time, I was working at the University of Tartu, the Department of Estonian and Comparative Folklore, and it was also not my idea at that time. It was the idea of the publishing house Punt, Wolf in English. And then they turned to me and asked if I could choose the stories from the Estonian folklore archives, the fairy tales, where the main protagonist is woman, or an important protagonist would be one woman, and let's publish them in a book. And it was a little bit different book. So there were stories according to the topics, like brother and sister, marriage, but now we mixed the stories are the same. They are translated by Federico, and they are now in different order and mixed, not so that in one block is one topic. And short introductions between the sections are removed, and the introduction is totally new, of course, because it's for an English reader. And it's different also because I have also changed in between. And I escaped introducing myself, and I introduced the book. Not the book, this was the Sõsara sõrmelund, it was the first one, the Estonian version. But now the English version started also, so that it was not my initiative, but it was the initiative of Federica. And he just appeared for me from nowhere and asked if he could translate my book into English. But then, actually we wrote already before, but when he asked this, I haven't met him. I didn't know who is Federico. Yeah, I knew only that from his introduction, he introduced himself, but not much more. And so, and now this book is ready. And we have introduced it in Tallinn already in a bookshop, and short in Rakvere also. And now it's time to do it here. I will give it to you now, because Federico is the main person here, in this sense that he's the initiator. He had the idea. He translated it, he made the layout, he made everything, absolutely everything. He even paid for the printing of it. So, and I am so much in debt to Federico actually, and I am so lucky that somebody so just from nowhere and made everything for me. And I don't know how it happened, but it was like this.
Okay, hello, thank you. Okay. I'm Federico. I'm not a ghost. I didn't came out from nothing, but I live in Estonia for 5 years. I live in Loksa, and I did the work in raamatu, the woman running wolves, and I knew about the work of Merili there because I was researching which kind of image doing for this bookshop with the books, and then I found out the work of Merili. About very Estonian fairy tales, the woman as a wolf. So after my work, I wanted to go in deeper with that, and I found out about Sõsara sõrmelund, and I wanted to read it, but there was no English translation, and so I said, okay, if I need to translate it for myself, let's translate it for everyone. And so there I call her and I say, can I translate your books, Merili? And she was enthusiastic about it, and that's it. That's how the book came. Then I wanted just to make something easy, but then I got in love with the translation, and I wanted to make, of course, a beautiful object, a beautiful book. So then we worked a couple of years on it, and finally came out, and we're very happy with it. That's it. Now let's speak about the books. Margaret just read it, and maybe have she could have the same point of view that you could have reading books. We had, of course, as an author, a different perspective. So please.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to tell the two of you that this is a very rare privilege for me actually to be here to talk to you about this book. And I really mean it. And I would like to actually share a little story with you because I made a connection with the book while I was reading it. So about 3 weeks ago, I facilitated a workshop. Okay, there were two Japanese women. One was an artist, and the second was a researcher in fairy tales, Dr. Margaret Lyngdoh. And they came to our department of Historian and Comparative Folklore. And what happened was that they facilitated a workshop. And this workshop, the way that they had envisioned it was that they wanted to engage with the environment also through art. So what they did was that they made puppets. So Moko made a puppet head. The students had to make the clothes. And one of the core parts of the project was when they had to, meet the artist at Radhi Cemetery, and they had to close their eyes. And the artist led these students one by one. And they went to a specific grave and they spoke. And the conversation was between the puppet and the person whose graves they were on. And as the students went out of the cemetery, and there was this profound sense of transformation that I connected when I was reading these stories, that these actors, these men, women, old people, animals, the natural surrounding, they all undergo transformation. And then when I'm reading this book, I think about how I'm drawn as a reader into this enchanted world, this cosmology where everything is magic, everything is something new, everything and I can be sure that the justice will be served. And this is something that came at me very in a core and profound way. And I wanted to start by asking you all a few questions that
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How did they choose those grades? Or how was it?
How did they choose? The artist made several trips together. So Tomoko and Mayako went to Radhi Cemetery several times before, and they chose each grave for each student. And the process, the creative process behind this, they didn't share with me. But it was a conversation between the non-human and the human. And this is something that was quite fairy tale-like. It was magical somehow.
They were strange graves, strange people who were there.
Strange people, so nobody knew who it was. And I wanted to, you already answered this question, Federico, but now, so I'll move on. I wanted to ask you why you chose to translate these books, these stories. So I'll move on to the second question that is for you, Merili. So something that really actually comes out when I'm reading these books is that, you have not censored these stories. They are brutal, they are violent, they are raw, they are as real as it can be. Can you talk a little bit about this?
No, but the first question was for you.
Okay, but the first question that you say that I already answered. Yes, I answered it in a technical way. Then before doing a job that will last 2 years, you ask yourself, okay, why I should actually need it? Okay, I can just translate it faster, check it myself and understand it somehow. Because then I know that these kind of works are somehow needed. I didn't say that actually I study Academy of Arts, so I'm an artist, and so I'm interested in this area of human expression. And I think that this kind of works, like fairy tales, like this poetical language, is very needed now. I was listening again yesterday a conference. We are now immersed of this digital communication, and digital communication is bringing us to this using terms, because like for example speaking about AI it needs terms. So what these words mean? It can mean this, it can mean this if there is this, it can mean this if there is this, it can mean this if there is this. But that's all. Meanwhile, like words, like especially as they come out in fairy tales, the imagining of the fairy tales, but it's like it is poetry. Like each word need to be interpreted. How you, where you listen it, how you read it, which story there was before, which story there is after, how is the object. Is someone telling me is the smile, or someone is telling me that he's angry? There is so much interpretation in the words, and I think that this kind of words, that also is why I like to be artist, and I think it is a good way how to spend my life, also in a social way, is that is actually needed a lot. I use a computer and AI also a lot for my job. My basic job is like keeping e-commerce, to sell typical equipment, and so I'm very, for 5 hours a day I'm very technical, and I sit down on the computer and communicate with the machine. And so many people like us do it. And we have to do it. It's our job. The society is going like this. You cannot fight against it. So then what you have to do later? You have to, okay, I communicate with the machine for 6 hours. Now it's needed to put myself in the opposition part. So work on words and not on terms. Like it's like if you are all day sitting in front of the computer, then you go to the gym because you need to move. If you communicate all day with the computer, then you need to read poetry, read fairy tales. And as an expat in Estonia, and as I love Estonia, and I know there is these words of magic, this paganism, that attract us so much, because it's telling to us something also hidden, invisible, that is speaking in this way, in a poetical way. And so I say, okay, it's good. That's good.
Okay, why I didn't censor these stories? Yeah, I can answer it in a wide context, because it's not only about why there are the brutal parts or aggressivities in these stories. It's much more. It's why you can't change them, because they have been told like this. They have been told like this, and it's not a piece of literature. It's a folklore. What's the difference? If some writer writes a piece of literature or some poem, some novel or something, only she writes it. Maybe she gives it to read for her husband or her wife before it will be printed, or maybe for some friends also. But then it will be printed, and then it's there, it's ready. But it's not so with the case in the case of folklore. Like in the case of folklore, it's different, because it goes. Let's say these folk narratives or these fairy tales, they have been spread through oral communication for so many generations usually, and they have been told further because they were meaningful for these listeners. They were not just casual stories, but every part of it was, every motive was probably meaningful. That was why it was told further. And if something was not so meaningful or not so meaningful anymore, it was changed. So it changed during the time. It's not that it has one author or one particular form, it changes. So, and everything that is there is important. And now it comes, I come to this function, it is functional. The fairy tales, particularly fairy tales, were told and riddles were asked in dark times, like in Estonia, especially now it's November, like it was the time when the souls were around, when the dead spirits were around. At the same time, the stories were talked, and we don't know much about it because, like, we say that this was the story for entertainment, but it was not just for entertainment. It had very deep purposes actually, and it's so with the whole folklore actually, with the whole heritage. I will tell another example which is easier a little bit to connect or to understand what was the purpose than in the case of the fairy tales, because fairy tales had so many purposes. But let's say lament. If the person started to lament, he entered, or let's say he or she summoned the word of the lamenters or the widowers. Like she is a widow is a woman, widow. She summoned the word of the widows. So it was easier to live through the grief, right? So, and it was connected with soul, that we don't use nowadays. Because soul, when we activate, the mind is more connected with the individual brain and these processes in the brain. The soul is more connected with the collective identity. And we don't use this word in scientific discourse today, which is a loss, which is a huge loss. In the 17th century, when you came to study in the Academia Gustaviana, like every second dissertation was about the soul. And then in the 18th century it disappeared. And then when Sigmund Freud came, like then the soul and the psyche started to mean different things. Before that it was maybe that the psyche and the soul were quite the same thing. And that was why it was so much, like there was no such problems like loneliness and such individualistic problems that we have in our society, because it was structured differently. And now I come back to this folklore chants, that they were, like I said, the lament was the one that could connect with this collective identity, with the collective, with this grieving, because then it was like better to work it through. And nowadays we lost this ability, and there are like half of the humankind is in grief or something like, because there is no concrete like processes. In the past, the process started, like let's say the grief, now it starts. In Kihnu, even nowadays, they wear these skirts, like, which have different stripes. When you are in grief, you have like this black sheet, and then it ends, and then you have another skirt again. So it was like concrete. Here is the process starts, and here it ends. The psychic processes were so much structured, and also in wedding customs. Everywhere you can see it in folklore. So it has been lost, and that's why we have mental problems, and we're like, oh, why is it that? And one day psychologists can't help people, and it's obvious why. It's quite not obvious, but yeah, it's like this. But in fairy tales, it's more difficult, because it's not that you also enter like or summon something through the fairy chain, but it's not the same, because there are animal tales, there are different topics. Some fairy tales deal with the topic of man and woman, many actually with the marriage questions, and then somehow these problems get solved, because the point of the fairy tale, the core of the fairy tale is change. So in the beginning, the person is somebody, and in the end, somebody else, like he has changed. Usually in the beginning is at home, and he gets adult during this process that appears there. And now the society, some societies are different. Like in Hungary, there is this fairy tale therapy, which is quite well known among the people in Hungary and also in Transylvania in Hungarian-speaking areas. And there, in Hungary, they have been published tens and tens of books, fairy tale collections that have the topic of. These fairy tale collections are not like this, that the Estonian fairy tales, like whatever, wonder tales. Actually, here is all of the wonder tales except one. But there are not that's wonder tales or according to this area, but they are all from all over the world. But they are gathered, or what to say this, like chosen according to the topic, according to the what is problem being solved in this. Let's say that fairy tales from woman to man, not from woman to man, for the woman about a man, or for the men about a woman, or young parents, or elderly people who want to get elder in a respectful way or something. Sisters and relationships between sisters and brothers. And then you choose this one that you have problem with, and you read these stories, and you can go to the therapist, this fairy tale therapist, and then you start to somehow get access to your own problems through these stories that you have read about the same topic. So the society has is coming back to this concept of soul in different ways. In alternative therapies also like different ways, and somehow I don't know how this will end, all this process, but yeah, I moved a little bit away from your original question, but I wanted to say that.
Thank you so much, Merili. I wanted to make a little interruption to ask you, what about the audience? I think that they have questions also. Should we take the questions now, or should we? Yeah. We can take it later on, so if you feel like you have a comment, you have an interesting idea or a thought that you want to contribute, please feel free, this mic is open. Yeah, just raise your hand, and I'll give you the mic. Yeah, just feel free. Yeah.
Well, my first question was to translate. Well, my connection with Merili is that I've been in contact with some of her more academic texts, so that's also, I maybe take the position and now ask, well, when you had that collection and you started to translate, so did you translate the texts, well, which order was it? And was it the order in which they actually appear in the finished collection? And why did you start with the text that you started with? I hope you see.
No, I worked in how it was the original one. And then we decided to change. We decided to, in the original books, there was also presentation. It was divided, fairy tales of sisters and brothers, fairy tales of marriages. There was this division, and we wanted to make a book more portable, more easy, that is going, that stay in the hands of people, that you can bring it everywhere. More easy, less structured, and that it's just you and the fairy tale. So yes, I follow the original book, and of course I translated the first 4 or 5, and then I did it again because of course it's the first time that I translate fairy tales, and so I had to learn something. So after a while I understood, okay, I will do them again, the beginning. It was not too hard, and just some words you have to understand what means is in Estonia. A curious fact, like there is often in the fairy tales the wife of the devil that want to escape, and so convince the devil to bring her to their parents in the bag. Very famous fairy tales, and she said, "Don't look in the bag. Don't look in the bag that you will bring to my parents. I will watch you from the roof of our house." So she put herself in the bag, so the devil will bring her back to her parents. And instead of herself, she dressed a mortar on the roof. So the devil, when she watches on the roof, if she's there watching him, she actually sees someone. And then he gets usually angry when after he brought this heavy bag to the parents and say, okay, I will go home and I will eat her. So he go home and he eat the mortar with the clothes. And I was always wondering, like, what is this mortar? The mortar is like this. It's small. How can you put it on the roof and dress it like and look like a woman? So I was translating this mortar and I was watching, searching these Estonian words, and he was on the Google was always appearing this mortar. And so it's remained there. And one day I went to Coldemano, that is near Oxa, where I live, and there is a lot of instruments from the Meno, from the 18th century, and there I see the mortar, like this. And it's like for making butter. And then I understand, this is the mortar. And now I understand, the rest the mortar is actually, is people at the bottom. Here is told to put some dress, now I understand it. So when it was possible, I hint that it was a butter mortar or that there was a butter mortar, but you cannot always say the butter mortar is like, it doesn't sound good. But this is a kind of a little process I had to do it with Estonian and with fairy tales that they usually live in this era, this century, 18th century.
The process was like, I remember it differently, that he didn't translate all the stories and then send to me, but he started to send it one by one, I think. And then I started to read, and it was like awful in the beginning. Because then I understood that, Estonian is so difficult language. Because when there is mao, you don't know if it's maku mao or matu mao. Like it was like, there were so many mistakes in the beginning. And then later it came better, and at the end it was so good. Like but I was like continuously reading this, and then I was like, wow, what's a difficult job you took. And these archaic words also, and verses, and like it contains a lot of difficult parts. Wasn't it too hard?
2 years and...
It's not 2 years, wasn't it?
It was 2
More,
years.
it was shorter, no?
It was 2 years,
Okay.
almost 2 years. Yes.
Okay.
And so, little by little.
I can't imagine how hard it must have been to translate an Estonian sensibility for a... I know, right? But yes, this actually brings me to this idea that I had when I was reading. And all the characters in the stories here, they're very, very relatable. They have like these emotions like you and me have. Like they're not some of these, like historical characters who are so far away. No, they have the same joy. They have the same. They feel love. They feel, they have laughter. They have jealousy, emotions that we tend to stigmatize, that we can actually live out by reading these stories. And I was thinking about how relatable they are and how close. You feel a sense of working through, processing your own emotions through reading these stories. And that is why I come to this really important question that I thought that I absolutely have to ask it to you. Why did you choose to call the name of this fairy tale book Deals and Deeds? That I understand, but Estonian fairy tales to live by. Would you like to comment? Such a lovely title.
I comment the fact that about the characters that are in the books, that they make also stupid choices. That usually, now especially in TV series, like everyone seems smart and everyone seems that they know what to do. Of course, because if not, the action is not going on. But here there is, of course, stupid people that make stupid choices. And someone tells you, don't go there, and you actually go there. We don't know. There are lazy people. Oh, it's so great to find lazy characters. I just don't want to do this. That's it. I just want to drink and to read And this is actually what I like the most, you know, because my everyday that I need to work for the money and then make my art and then live in Estonia, learn in Estonian and raise a child, and then I see these characters that are just wake up, they go to sauna, they found some devilish woman prepare them vodka and food, they say why not, and like this, let's marry, why not, beautiful, so relaxing.
And they get into trouble.
They get to trouble and then let's see the trouble and then maybe go out. What's the problem? It's okay, it's a life. And like you, tears.
Okay, because this second part, Estonian fairy tales to live by, was his invention, and deeds, it was mine, because you proposed something else that we wanted to make it like alliterated, like that same, like it sounds well, and then I didn't like your proposal, and then I actually thought I should think something better, something another.
I was stuck with the idea of the double. That's also what I did in the draw, in the cover. Like there is always these two people or two characters: the devil and the man, woman and the devil, sister and brother. What else? There is always two. It's like it's representing you, like the protagonist, and the others. So it's like you facing the walls. And there is always this two. I got in love with these two. I want to say about the marriage or something. And so my title at the beginning was about this 01, this technical language. But then you wanted to go out from this idea, and I appreciate it. And so we prefer to choose this connection of that is also connected with transformation you were saying before. There is one moment when something happened, problem, and this problem is bringing change, but you will go through the change and you will succeed if you follow the path. If you go, then you will find yourself in another position, but it will be better because you was brave enough to go through the change. And so you make deals, then there is deeds, and then it's going on. And also, something I appreciate of Estonian fairy tales is not so strict that there is beginning, there is change, and then there is end. Sometimes there is beginning, change, end, and this is the new beginning, and there is another change in the end. There is the devil that convinced a Christian woman to marry him. And then there is all the story at the end of the devil, the woman managed to escape. And then there you find out that actually the story was not about the woman that managed to escape, but it's the full devil story. Because then, okay, devil there understood, never marry a Christian. So, from now on, I marry only devil woman. And so then he married a devil woman, children, and all the story about with the devil woman. And so there is never like, there is 2-3 stories together. I don't know what I say there. But years and years, continuously. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good answer. Yeah, I'm not going to answer anymore about this title, but the stories are so long. Also, yeah, it should be also said that 2 of the third, like most of the stories are from Seta stories. When I was preparing the book, the Esitlusel, I didn't think that I would take so many Seta stories. I wanted to cover more or less the whole Estonia, but then it appeared that there are so good stories from Seta people that I can't. Like I was, the process was so that I read all Risto's people from this first group sent me the stories from the Estonian archive from the same type. So type means that they are all with the same plot. And it can be that there are more than 100 stories with the same plot. Yeah, usually it was less. And then I read all these stories and I chose one, or sometimes even 2 or 3, and I then put together because I don't know if I would do it nowadays the same way, But sometimes I found that the beginning is better from the one version and the ending is better from the second one, and then I put together two versions from different tellers. And then in Seto, when the Seto folklore was collected, the ones who wrote the stories down were paid sometimes, but in Sommer's collection, one collection, they were paid for the rows, how many rows they wrote down, so much money they got. And that was why some of the stories were very long and they were put together, the different ones were put together in one story. And sometimes they even have the details that wouldn't have been there without this paint and stuff. Usually it was not paid for the folklore collectors to get paid, but the ones who sent the stories, they were not paid usually. They got sometimes reputation, their names were published in the newspapers. It was like another kind of reward, but not money. But in the Setu case, and it was also the critics that was made after the Cesare Sermerot was published, that I could have it shortened the stories sometimes, because it's obvious that this teller, this is individual, like detail that she has added to the story. It would not have been like in a normal everyday situation. It would have been a little bit shorter, maybe not so detailed and not so long, but I don't know, it is like this. Yeah, but anyway, the storytellers also used to put together different plots, and so it's normal that once the Devi has painted all this story with a Christian woman, and then he marries the Devilish woman, so it could be in the same story also. It can be.
I just want to say that I'm not sure about this shortness of fairy tales, because like if you say to people, you tell a story, like in the evening, there is nothing to do. You tell a story. If you make it a short one day, people will just say what's happened. And when you also tell something, you make it you add so many details that you just improvise, and I just see it every day with my child. If I do it too short, she will be so disappointed. And she will say again, and I need to invent another one. And so I don't think like in the real life actually they were so short. I think they were very much like you put it down, like with a bit more detail, telling me a bit where they are, what is happening, creating a bit of ambience.
Yeah, the problem is that these stories are not from real life situations, that they were sent to the archive. They were not like somebody went there 100 years ago and recorded the situation. They were not, it was not possible to go to
the already the archive is a little bit artificial.
Yeah.
I want to check with all of you now. Do you have like questions or comments or ideas about the shortness or length, about the characters, animal characters? Yes, okay.
Because, as I was curious about your cooperation and then the order and whose the eventual order was, and now I'm just asking, well, you mentioned that you got, of course, the text from the book archives, and that koostaja is actually the character there who took the tea at the archives, so his people and that there's a regular family sitting at the archives and producing this text. So I was wondering, well, for instance, did you just ask, or the first question that you asked was, well, do you have any tales, or which kind of tales are there set on women? Were there tale types chosen by you? Were there tale types suggested by Lyngdoh? Well, the eventual number of the tales, or tale types, well, who decided on that? And whether there was something that was excluded because there just wasn't enough space.
Yeah. No, Risto didn't choose the stories. But Risto, yeah, in this sense, Risto's It was like this in the first place, that I started to read the books, the anthology anthologies of Estonian fairy tales that were published by Lyngdoh's working team. Eesti imemuinasjutud, the first and the second. So I had read it before also, but then I started to read it again, and so I read one by one, and then I marked which stories have a woman main character, or where is woman and some important protagonist. And then there are koostaja also written there because it's well commented and it's a scientific publication. There are the originals. I recommend to read these originals. Eesti imemuinasjutud, who reads for those. And then, according to the statements that were found in these last pages of this book, I took the ones and asked Lyngdoh these specific types to send me. Then I got all the versions from the database that are not available publicly for everybody. And then I started to choose which one is the better, and it came out that the Seto version is a bit better, and it's better than others. Because the Seto tellers were, they were belong to the oral culture. However, they were illiterate longer than in other parts of Estonia. That's why the language and everything was so nice and poetic, and why the stories were so well told. That was the procedure. Yeah, but it was.
That is this question. But do you have a favorite among the favorites?
Yeah, my favorite is the first story in this book. I don't know why, but about brother and the sister. Is it the beautiful sisters that try to write? What is your favorite?
It's the woman from the hole. Very simple, but the way I like the ones I like the most is those ones that later I keep wondering about. So how these women came from the hole, from where she was coming from. She gets stuck, and then she say, it is your fault that I am your nightmares. You turn off the fire. What this means, turn off the fire? It's not explained in the paper. And so you after the film you wonder yourself, and you make a full movie about it. And those are the ones I like the most. And you? Yours?
My favorite is Esitlusel. And the trope of it recurring is that, and what I have learned and what I want to also tell you all. So if you have a non-human husband or wife, if at night they take off their skin, or their snake skin, or their seal skin, or they turn into their dog skin, remember never ever to burn that skin because you love the human form more, because they are just going through the witch's curse. And the witch's curse will go away, and then they become real humans after that. So that's my favorite. But the sweet husband. Okay, more comments, maybe questions, ideas, thoughts? Yeah? No? Okay. Then I'll continue because this kept hitting me that there's like a variety of animals that I meet in this collection. Okay, I meet dogs, I meet cats, I meet sheep, cow, snake, hedgehog, storks, and many others. And it is a world that is populated by things that are not supposed to be alive. For example, a river, a brook that talks, a tree that is able to shelter a young woman. And I'm wondering, like this universe where these characters are in, it is alive. The world around in the story world is alive in a way that reminds me of my own ontology, where I come from. So I come from this little town in northeast India, so I'm part of an indigenous community. And we also have talking rivers and talking trees and talking stones and animals who come and impart wisdom. And I was wondering that these stories decenter the humans. The humans are not in every story is the human, the the protagonist of the story. And this is something that is very, very beautiful. And I was wondering if you noticed this, and whether you have some thoughts about why it is so that in Estonian fairy tales it is like this, and like not in the other fiction genres where you have more an anthropocentrism, more
Yeah.
Well, I think it's part of the belief that was before the industrialization, and so it was normal to believe that everything is alive, and it was normal to believe that you need the nature to be alive. Now we don't. We feel it is not needed, so we don't recognize the other. We can make our machine, we can make the food, we can make whatever, and before was much more needed. It came in my mind an image from the movie of yesterday that we saw, that a little kid is cold and he put the feet in the sheet of the cow, and there was the only warm things around. And so there is always this connection with nature. Nature helps you a lot, and we are all connected. And there was before was more obvious, and so there is not a pyramid that we are at the top. We are all at the same level, and I am cruel to you that you are a pig, but then nature and coldness is cruel to me. I cannot do nothing. I have no power to stop it. And now with our big machine we can have everything all year round. And so it was just more obvious before. But it's not that now it's not true. That's why it is also very, very important to take it back this idea. And actually now the science is slowly going back to them. With many things, in physics, we are starting to really see that everything is much more connected, that the whole is more than the parts, or that we are studying so much the intelligence of plants. We are getting really to understand that they choose. They have mothers take care of daughters. They are connected with the children, this stuff. So we are going back. We are starting. We are going back with. Before was an intuition. Now we are having proof. Little by little, maybe we will take it back. But the intuition was right.
Yeah, you said already important things, but because in between it was like the science was very far away from this idea, from the original idea that everything is living, and the animistic idea that the earth is actually living, the plants and the trees and the rivers are living, and now it's coming back. Yeah, I think also because let's say the scientist who studies the animals was supposed to say that animals don't have souls, and they don't have, and at the same time, this scientist who was doing this research that animals don't have feelings, goes home, and then the dog feels already, from a very long distance that he's approaching, and the dog goes to the door. So how this scientific person can be schizophrenic, and the home is something else that in the working place. So it has been already more closer to each other, these two perspectives, but we see that so it talks to have these feelings and intuition, and it is in many fields in science it has changed. You mentioned the film yesterday, so those who were not there among the audience, it was that film in Perth, in a collective theatre, the Latvian animation, Talk of God, and it took place in the 17th century, and it used very precisely the information from Thies trial, like it was really from this werewolf trial from the Livonia's end of the 17th century. They had read the trial protocol, they made the filmmakers, because it was it was crazy film, but it was very precise in the details, and it was yes, it was somehow. It also influenced subconscious somehow, but it was interesting. There was also this transformation of animal human transformation, and mystic work was there. Yeah, and the close connection with nature was somehow there. This is another topic now. Yeah, it will be like this. We are going to this indigenous cultures have all the time knew this, but this in our Western culture it has been only a small period of time that we forgot this, that we are nature. It was like from the end of the 17th century until now, and only in some parts of the world, not in the Amazonian forest, and not in Khasi Hills, and in some Philippine hills, so they didn't really forget it. So, and now we are going back, I think.
We need to touch to believe. We are like that.
This is true, but this collection of stories is as important as I think it is, because it invites us to consider the life that is there all around us, whether it's in the earth, it's in the grass, it's in the trees, it's in the animals, whoever it is, it's all alive. And this is what the stories remind us of, and I'm so grateful to you for translating this, because it allows me to walk into, to participate in this story work. And I'm really grateful to you. And
It's also a good step in the for expats, like to reading a fairy tale from the country where you are. It's already going to feel more connected, and it's particularly special.
Did it help you to get closer to still?
Yeah, of course. You walk around on the streets, and you know that you know. You know that you did something. You go to the supermarket and the lady watch you bad because you speak bad Estonian. You know, but I know fairy tales. Probably you don't know. Okay. You have power.
maybe the audience has some comments, because we're nearing the end of this conversation. Maybe a final word, a final comment. Yeah, okay.
Really typical Estonian question. Namely, is there some particular fairy tale anime that brings out the Estonian character, Estonian attitudes the best? Rico also already mentioned being lazy and making stupid decisions, and maybe there is some story that brings out this, which refers to some other feature which you think is typical Estonian.
Well, I don't know if it's typical Estonian, tell me Merili, but I love how they also particularly priests are not moral at all. They have no morality at all. And there is one very strict sentence you did, like the brother, your favorite story, the brother go to the priest and say, "I want to marry my sister." "No, you cannot marry your sister, of course." And he show you money, and say, "Okay, let's go."
This is more a setup, a trade, not testimonial.
Well, of course, the correlation between peasant and manor, this is everywhere. Like fairy tales are albeit around, there is, you can find manor, this relation between the occupier, the rich guy that have the lands, and us peasants, that we are smarter, we are better, but we are slave. This is always, also in the movie of yesterday, there is always Baltics need to digest this a lot. Still.
Good point.
Then I don't know, maybe I found I see characters better because I'm from outside. And also the relation with the devil, it's pretty unique from here. I don't know if in other Baltics countries, I don't know well, but you can trick the devil easily. Like in Italian fairy tales, it's not so easy. You need some Van Helsing, some superpower guy, some very high range priest or pope. And here you just go to the neighbor and he tell you, oh, but you just go there and take some jewels, red jewels, and show to him the red jewels, and he think that is blood, and he make you the karate that you want, whatever. It's just very easy. It's common between peasant folk, between Estonians, to know how to trick the devil. That is also connected maybe with the lazy guy. Like, you know, I know what is the problem. You go to the devil, you trick him, you cheat him. They don't take it seriously.
And so much studies in general, right? Television creations. Yeah, quite very good comments. It was interesting to hear.
And now do we have more questions, maybe comments about the devil, about how you can make beer inside
What is
the
your
devil's
answer to my
axe?
question?
Oh, making beer inside the devil's axe. This is my favorite story. Yeah, exactly. It's possible to convince the devil that you can make beer inside his axe. So this was the moment of, you know, mental, this connection I found. But yes. Oh.
I have a medical therapy question. So, is there any fairy tale I can use as a psychotherapist? Or do you have any experience, personal experience or other experience that some of these stories have had a therapeutic effect on somebody or on yourself?
Yeah, very good question. Just tomorrow I will wake up before 6 o'clock because I will go to Tallinn to a course of fairy tale therapy. Like this is introduction to fairy tale therapy. First time in such a form in Estonia. But there are different forms of fairy tale therapy. One is spread in Spanish language countries like in Latin America and Spain. This is more based on Jungian theories, and the symbols are very important there. The other one is that I was mentioning already, the Hungarian. This is a little bit different, but and there are different versions how it works, but if you go as an individual being to a fairy tale therapist, like coach or something therapist, then there was even one version that I was reading about, that you go with some fairy tale already, that this fairy tale is always coming to my mind. It doesn't leave me off, but I don't imagine that Estonians go with such a question, because the fairy tales are not so widespread in Estonia like they are in Hungary, because in Hungary they speak in the kindergarten a lot of fairy tales to the children already, and it seems to me that it's much more, and there are so many movies of fairy tales, and it seems to me that there is so much more, like they are so much more spread in Hungarian culture than the Estonian one. But the other ways is that you go to the therapist and you speak about your problem, or where are you stuck in your life right now, and then the therapist's most important task actually is to find you a tale, and then they have these hundreds of thousands of tales, the best ones, they, according to the topics from all over the world collected there, mainly folk narratives, less the how you say this, which have the author, like the artificial, not the folk narratives mostly, because they are the best. And the point is that the therapist has to tell it, not to read it. If it is folk narrative, then not to read. And then next time, when they meet, he will tell this story or several stories. And the point is that there is some similarity, and the point of this approach is that every situation in your life has a parallel in some story, like the solution can be found. There can be found parallel situation in some story, and then they start to also like approach it in this way, that you are the story, like you are Also when the helper comes, the supernatural helper comes, it's part of you. If you don't know him, you should find it in yourself, this supernatural helper. I haven't, I will, in December I will go to one of these courses in Hungarian language, in Web, where there is one facilitator from Hungary and another is from Romania, also Hungarian speaking. And then I will know how it works, but I haven't, I can't speak much about it because I have read only about it in theoretical level, but not made myself, not as a therapist and not as a client, so I don't know yet. Very good as well.
Are there any more questions?
Hello, hi. Just to continue the same point that you said, and like you mentioned before, right, that there are these characters who are taking stupid decisions and doing stupid stuff in these tales. So do you think if you do this fairy tale therapy in Estonia and people might find parallels in the stories and then they go ahead and just do the stupid things that the characters are doing in the stories, do you think it might backfire kind of to try and do the fairy tale therapy here? If someone tries to copy the things that these stupid characters are doing because they find the parallel in the story and then they just go ahead and do it.
Because it was too fast.
It's only asked whether we find that the characters are doing stupid things in a monotonous way, and if during fairy tale therapy, the patient says, it's advice towards also those stupid things, then what if it backfires?
Maybe. I don't know. They're usually stupid things, and you will find out what comes out. Because the main point is to make a change in your life.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope the people will do more stupid stuff, not more, but stupid stuff, but without getting worried about it. Just going through your choices. Good or so stupid.
So finish?
So, are there any more questions, comments, thoughts, ideas? Last possibility. Okay. Well,
It's cheaper than usually. It's 80 euros only. Yeah, usually it's more than 20 euros. And you can get a signature like.
you can get the author's autograph and the translator's autograph too.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for being here and listening to us.